Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, Danvers. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, and I am performing for the show at 1 p.m., so it'll be sent out live. Welcome to the Topics of the Town News, and I'm Mark Zuberek, your host. And I will have a special guest. He's a little bashful, but he'll come on later on when we start talking about his subject. Today, the agenda and opinions are solely by the Topics of the Town host, our guests, contributors, and commentators. Today's quote, Greg, we need to cut the music, please. Thank you. Today's quote, or saying, as I have in the past, is two parts, and then there's a third part that I added. The first part is, I've used this before, it's always be yourself. Express yourself, have faith in yourself, and believe in yourself. That is the most important factor in our life that we need to get our point across, and if we have a concern, let's put it on the table. The second part of this quote is, inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. As you've seen my comments in the past, is that the residents, taxpayers, our friends and our relatives are afraid to express themselves on the air, similar to what I'm doing right now. That is a form of fear of the environment which we live in. So, if we can put up my clip from Elon Musk, and I found this recently. So this has been really applied to all of our communications in the past 4 or 5 years. So you're not mad at those who lied to you for years, but you're mad at me for proving they lied to you. So Elon Musk has come out, and he is another foreign transplant just like myself. He's an immigrant to this country, and he's made it big. But he has been very instrumental in providing courage to individuals because of his social media X factor that he provides to our communities. The last part of my quote for today is that style. And Greg, if we can put up my style clip. Style is knowing who you are, what you want to say, and not giving a damn. That's what you've got to be, expressing your views, because you cannot live in fear of somebody criticizing you. If they do, that's fine. Let them do it. This is a clip that I found this week, is when Gore Vidal died in 2012. The New York Times described the National Book Award winning writer and both a famous feuder and someone who loved conspiracy theories. Now, we love conspiracy theories on this show and in our town, especially the ones he imagined himself at the center of. A two-time congressional candidate, Vidal never ran out of opinions, filing 200 essays, 25 novels, and 2 memoirs when he wasn't fine-tuning scripts for trade quips with Johnny Carson. The Vidal style entailed all the ways people project themselves onto the world, imbuing them with confidence. And the whole background to these quotes is confidence in yourself and be confident about yourself because you are an individual and you deserve to have your opinion. So that's what the show is all about, and I want to continue. But when we turn to social media to communicate with our friends, family, and ultimately our constituents who elect you, we have a problem. Einstein was correct. So if we can put up the Einstein quote, this has been on my show for years now. I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. And I found another article that basically says that we're on our way to have an idiocracy in this country. Local news. Today, I shall continue my programming notes from September 12th, where I ran out of time. After 1 hour of the topics of the town, we discussed elections and the resignations and departure of our management team at Town Hall. I ran out of time. So what I want to do today is compensate for that and include all of the remainder that I put together because I had 36 pages of information. Local news. Town Charter Review continues. I have myself been filming the Town Charter Review for your consumption, and I introduce it after every meeting, and they're having meetings twice a month now. So it's a very active committee, but I think they're still trying to find their way of why are we doing this? And the thing is, they need input from our former elected officials, our current elected officials, and like myself, I have put together a 3-page information section and submitted it to Sally Calhoun, who's the chairwoman of the committee, and she's doing a fine job, but she has a job and a half in front of her. There's electric company satisfaction survey. I just want to update you on the survey. I made a big deal about it at the selectmen's meeting because they sent out a 4x6 brochure that had a emblem on it that you are supposed to film, and I don't know what it's called anymore, but I went up to the Board of Selectmen and I said, hey, you are asking for a satisfaction survey, and you are asking for the residents that pay the bills to provide your information. Well, with this computerized program that you have instituted, you're excluding 30 to 40% of the population because like myself, the elderly in this town, and I consider myself elderly now, they do not necessarily want to or know how to get into this program. So soon after the selectmen's meeting, 2 days later, I got an email from DPW in Town Hall. And you know that questionnaire, the satisfaction survey, was like 5 or 6 pages long. And the thing is, we as the elderly do not have the patience for that. So we need to figure out a better way to get information. And I think what we should do is communicate, like Einstein said, we don't want to go through the computer to communicate with our audience that is out there. That's why I'm sitting here as well. So, this time on this show, I'm into 10 minutes already in, and I am going to focus on the Beverly Airport happenings and what the status is of the current expansion plan of instituting a jetport in our community. The most significant issue of our town is the proposed expansion and growth of Beverly Airport within the Danvers area. Danvers residents must organize and defeat the current plans for hangars and runway expansion. This is the first step in growth, which is a direct impact to our quality of life. We must stop this master plan expansion, and we need to recognize that it's an impact to our quality of life. So we're going along. What I had promised in the past to Sally Kearns is that I owe her and Joan Lovely a equal time opportunity to come on the show and put on their campaign issues and reach out to the audience that I may have. I don't even know how many people are watching this, but there are people that are watching. So I promised equal time for Sally Kearns, and I shall fulfill my promise, even though Sally declined to come and present her campaign for state representative, similar to what happened with Joan Lovely. Because the last show, I tried to get their pertinent 2 cents of the campaign on the air, but I did not get to Sally's piece. So right now, Greg, if you can put up the Sally Kearns picture, because we all know who Sally is. And this is a great picture, and I found that on the internet. I have no other information except from the initial campaign that she ran. What are the critical differences between you and the other candidates seeking this post? No primary at this time has happened, this particular 2-year cycle, or final election contender this year. She has no competition, so she is in. The question that was answered on the internet site, and I appreciate Sally's input into our affairs, but the question was asked, and what are the critical differences? She said that I bring the perspective of a mother and the perspective that only someone who's done this job can offer because I've done the job in the past. I was honored to be elected 3 times by the people of Danvers and West Peabody to represent them at the state legislature. And this is for the 13th Essex District and in the House of Representatives. She was elected back in 91 and 97 through 97. And she decided at that time that it was more important to raise a family and devote her time to the upbringing of children. And I know that the other comment that I have here is, and this is what I've been able to find. I'm not going to make my own quotes. I know what I believe. I'm a Democrat, and I know how to work with Democrats and Republicans and how to create alliances and build relationships to get things done on Beacon Hill, because I've done it in the past. So now she's in office for 3 terms. This is her 3rd term after the break for the family. And she has been very active and supportive of our efforts in town. And one of the efforts, Beverly Airport support against noise and expansion. What actual contribution to Danvers government? She has been at many meetings and participated as a resident, because she is a resident of this town, but she represents 3 other towns. What legislative actions have taken place? She has expressed pride in how Danvers accepted the illegal immigrants to town. I don't agree with that, but that's what she has put on the table. And what we have done with the illegal immigrants is we have overloaded our social services, state and local, and we have overcrowded schools. The new school, Smith School, is the one that they have decided to dedicate to the illegal immigrants that have landed on our doorstep by our federal and state government. The one thing that I would also like to do is the one thing that I have a problem with, and I'll express it because I am here, the trash fee legislation that happened in the past was done by the state legislature as a option for the towns to impose a 200 or impose a trash fee, because the towns could not, the cities and towns could not overrule or have an override, because we are limited in what our real estate taxes can be, and it's 2.5% from last year. So that's the Sally Kern story, and I'm sticking to it. And I am extending my future invitation to Sally whenever she wants to. I am willing to bring her on the show and discuss any subject she wants, because I'm not limited to what I can discuss. She may be limited in some respect, but that's okay. So, Sally, whenever you're ready, come on, and I will put you on for the next show. So, right now, we're into 40 minutes to go, and what I like to do is continue my show from last 2 weeks ago, where I ran out of time, and I will not run out of time today. So what I like to do is invite my friend and compatriot who has been very vocal about the Beverly Airport. And what I like to do is do a brief introduction to what we're going to be talking about, and have Joe Rinaldi come on up and sit at my right. So here we go, Joe. Come on aboard.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you for coming, and I appreciate your time that you have devoted to this effort, and you're being affected directly just like I am.
Right.
So, what we need to do is we need to look at the light on the camera. You don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to the camera.
Okay.
So what
It's all new to me.
well, that's all right. You're going to be a pro in about 2 minutes.
We'll see.
Public comments that we have been presenting to the Beverly Airport Commissioners, and they have a monthly meeting at the east side of the airport, which is in Beverly, and it's off of Route 97, I believe. And there's a big sign, Beverly Airport, or Beverly Regional Airport. I don't know what that really means, but they are a municipal airport, and that's what we should be considering them. The commission has been hearing from us, at least several of us, that we, the people of Danvers, Massachusetts, in order to ensure our community remains focused on resident well-being, quality of life, and individual as well as environmental health, do hereby propose the following considerations be made with regard to the operation of Beverly Airport. The considerations that were presented several times, I believe. You weren't at the last meeting, but I've made sure, and I've had this on the show already. But what I like to do is just go quickly through the 5 items that I've identified.
Sure.
The residents are placing the following motions for your action today, which was on August 12th, at this Airport Commissioners' monthly meeting. The motions are made on behalf of the abutting residents. The trade-off that happened, or the elimination of my comments, happened because I have only 3 minutes to present these issues. And the thing is, I have presented these issues, various issues, on very many occasions, but I've always run out of time. So I have the time now, and here we go. This is to the airport commissioners. The motions, and we'll go one by one.
Right. And if you want me to respond to them, I'll
Yes,
be happy to.
that's what
Sure.
I like to do.
Sure.
The motion is hereby made to revoke the current lease for the planned west side jet hangar. The lease is for construction of a flight level aviation hangar. The lease is to be revoked due to the extensive and unresolved environmental considerations that have not been fully explored to date. This was the covering motion, basically, because this is the first and largest impact as a result of the master plan that was presented in 2020. And this is the expansion and inclusion of a jet port at the west side of the airport, which is located on Danvers property. What do you say?
Well, it seems to me, Mark, that this jet port, and it does seem like a foregone conclusion that it's going to be erected, regardless of the lease or whatever else. It can only have, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of my neighbors and friends, have a negative effect on the quality of life of those of us, who live in Danvers. It's just going to increase jet traffic. They would like to have you believe that they're just going to put 2 jets in the hangar, even though it can house 5 or 6 jets, as I understand it. And the whole thinking is that it's going to reduce traffic. I don't see how that's going to happen. In fact, it just seems like for years jet traffic has increased, and it certainly adds to the pollution, the CO2 discharge of these jets that, in my opinion, are just an overflow of usage of this area as opposed to staying maybe at Hanscom or Logan. Right. I kind of think this is like Logan overflow, or I like to call it like Logan North, you know, and I think that airport is just has gotten way out of control, especially as it treats its residents down below, and that's why I like to refer to it. And if you've read any of my emails, I refer to it as Beverly Recreational Airport, because I think most of the time they're recreating. They would like to have you believe that they bring this tremendous amount of money to the region, Danvers and Beverly, and the North Shore, and I'm sure there is some money that they bring to the area, but for the most part, they're bringing the money to themselves and their supporters, the flight schools, the pilots, the students. I don't think there were that many of them that when they landed at Beverly Recreational Airport, run down and buy a roast beef sub at Supreme's Roast Beef or go to Market Basket or whatever. Yes, there's I'm sure some little business that goings on here and there, but for them to have ever made the claim, and in fact a former chairman of the Airport Commission said that, and he said it, and you filmed it,
right,
and I remember it, he said, allegedly, we bring in $35 million to the region, so it's ludicrous, you know, it just isn't so, and so people think, well, maybe the airport's expanding, but look at all the business it's bringing in. Yeah, for themselves and their friends and their recreation, it's not doing a lot for the actual taxpayer of this community.
That's right. Now, this is the key element at this time, because the airport commissioners, even our two commissioners that we have who's our second commissioner?
The one who resigned?
Yeah.
Aaron
Henry.
Yes.
Aaron Henry, and he has basically bailed out on the town, and rightfully so. He has been put in a position where he's too busy to concentrate on something like this. He's got a bigger job in town hall because of the town manager. The town manager has established his environment or his kingdom in town hall, in the White Hall.
Not for long.
Not for long, right. But we also have William Kossawan. So even our two commissioners, I don't remember whether they voted. I know that Aaron voted to allow this lease.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether Bill was on at that time.
Right.
There was another Matthew somebody. But they come and they go, and nobody is persistent in caring for the Danvers residents.
You know, and which is a shame. And I've heard Bill speak, and I think even though he may have a bias toward the airport, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bill's here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you do have an aviation connection, and so I understand that you see the picture maybe better than myself, who's biased about this whole situation. It's just sad that even when Bill is bringing forth the complaints that the residents have, they go nowhere. They're yes to death, and if you want to speak publicly, as you alluded to earlier, they give you 3 minutes, and God forbid you go over a little bit, then you're cut off. And so very little is listened to, and if it is, it goes nowhere, because as much as Bill might want to make a difference, he's so easily outvoted. That's why I believe they shouldn't even have the commission. It's just let's get the tax money that's due us for that land, because we're not getting any effective representation, regardless of how sincere, and I think he is, Bill, to want to help us in this situation.
Joe, if we, that's a subject for another day.
Okay.
However, now we are talking about jetport
Yes.
and the jetport expansion
Yes.
that has been identified in the master plan.
Right.
And we are looking for communications that have happened between the airport commissioners and the developer, which is Flight Level Aviation,
Right.
who is the operator. And the operator is business. That's all it is. He has no allegiance to the town of Danvers, to the city of Beverly,
Right.
or to Wenham. So the thing is, I have, and let me just interject here,
Sure.
because on September 19th, I was invited to attend a Zoom meeting of the 210 people that were on the Zoom meeting.
Excuse me. Who alerted me, and I think I alerted you.
Yes.
Amy McCoy.
Yes.
Yes. Who's also
I was the only one, I understand, from the people in our region.
exactly.
And Hanscom is a duplicate of what's happening to us, except they're in a more grand scale than we are, because what they're doing is they're asking for 17 hangars to be built as a jetport for private jets. Currently at Beverly Airport, we, as far as I'm concerned, and I've visually seen them, there are at least 3 or 4 business jets that come in and out of Beverly Airport, bringing passengers, whether they're scheduled or not. And I'm beginning to believe that it's a scheduled flight now, because the flight over my house occurs on a regular basis, and it's on a Monday, Sunday, or Friday. And that's when the business people come in and go.
Right.
And those are the wealthy individuals that can afford to be
Right.
jet transported from on a commute.
Right,
Which is great.
I will if you
Sure.
won't mind my interjecting. I believe that Beverly Recreational Airport is becoming the way station. So they'll land here, right? But they're not going to go running around down in Danvers and Beverly, buying things and using going to the restaurants, whatever. This is a stopping point. So they will call their chauffeurs or their cabs or Ubers, and they'll go to Boston, because that's where they really want to go. But it's so much easier going from Beverly or Danvers to Boston than to fly into Boston, because of all the fees and the aggravation.
It's much more expensive
Exactly.
to land either
Exactly.
at Hanscom or
Exactly.
Logan.
Right. But what the point I'm making is these people aren't coming here to land in Beverly and Danvers because they want to, do business in Danvers and Beverly necessarily. I'm sure there are some corporate connections here, with the industrial
Right.
parks. But for the most part, they use this as a way station to further their mission to go to Boston. And as you just pointed out, it's a lot cheaper to land
Right.
here than in
Oh, yeah, it's
Logan.
peanuts compared to what Logan charges. The one thing that I want to just summarize this thing
sure.
is I attended, or I listened to this Zoom call and visual. I couldn't get on because my computer messed up. I'm not technically advanced, but this is in regards to the expansion of Hanscom Field,
Right.
but it's an organization that's been fighting this battle at that location for the last 3 or 4 years. And the lady that I was dealing with is from Swampscott. And what I'm going to do is I have this discussion, a record of it, and it's a film and voice, and I'm going to present it to our community as a special that's going to be coming after this meeting.
Right.
The issues that they have presented to us, and this organization wants to have a municipal resolution campaign. Ask your select board or city council to pass a resolution urging Governor Healy to stop the private luxury jet hangar expansion, which is happening in Beverly as well.
Right.
So our Board of Selectmen are deaf. They don't want to even hear it. And the thing is that they did have a meeting at the master plan presentation, and that was attended by over 200 people, and it was in 2 rooms at the middle school.
But then when that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, that
Right,
was 3 years ago.
Right, right. And then little by little, it's just dissipated because people get frustrated. And people who are even very much involved, said, what's the point? We come, we attend, and nothing, no progress seems to occur. We continue to get over hundreds sometimes on a daily basis of propeller-driven planes that use leaded gas that pollute
Right.
all of us.
Well,
And-
that's the next thing we want to talk about.
Sure,
Joe,
go right ahead, yeah.
Because you have been a very
Big mouth about it.
very committed individual in regards to the leaded fuel
Right.
that is being used by propeller-driven
Right.
planes, and I'm not convinced that the jets use the same fuel, except it's higher octane.
Right. It's not. Yeah. It's not maybe. So I don't want to say it's not quite as bad, but it's still very much toxic and CO2. Toxins that come out of those jets. But the propeller planes, they use leaded fuel that's poisonous. It falls down on us. It flows all over the area. Maybe it's more concentrated nearer the airport, but it falls over everybody. And it's any kind of lead level. There's no such thing as an okay lead level,
Right.
where all right, it's reached that threshold. It's okay, or it hasn't gone beyond that threshold. It's okay. No, there is no safe level. All the science is in. That's why if you want to sell your house, especially if you're selling it to a family, you have to get every piece of lead off the wood, or if there's piping or whatever.
Well,
else, there
that's
can
legally
be no
binding,
right.
right.
There can be no lead. Not a little bit is okay, and that's my complaint with the elected officials, because I think long ago, when we all of a sudden started getting bombarded because they used a different runway, which was 927, but that's another story. Anyhow, when they bombarded us, all of a sudden, for over years that I've lived here, 25, 30 years, I never even saw a propeller plane. But way back then, I felt, and even now, the elected officials, whether they be local, state, or national, not necessarily national, but yeah, nationally with like Seth Moulton, they could have gotten together with the airport officials and figured out a plan that you could have a little better balance into what neighborhoods you go over, and just spread the wealth a little bit and try to make compromises. They will say, well, we've spoken to the pilots, but it's all voluntary because the FAA, gives them 24/7 usage, so anything they do is purely voluntary. Well, I think when you have elected and appointed officials get together around the table, you can make some gains where maybe it's not going to make everybody happy, but as you were saying earlier, you can compromise. That's what we need. Reagan and I think who was the House leader at the time? Tip O'Neill, right?
Yeah.
They differed greatly in their philosophy, but they would talk and they would make compromises. This hasn't happened in this community. The FAA supports this airport, and we are getting the fallout, the horrible, poisonous fallout that affects little kids in particular. When they get lead, it hurts their development, their mental development, their cognitive abilities, all of that. And people say, well, I guess we'll just have to put up with it. Hey, in 1996, they didn't put up with it. Lead was banned from car usage, but they can fly over us, and pollute our neighborhoods
Joe,
and our health.
Joe, the biggest problem that I
Sure.
see is that we allow it to happen.
Exactly.
Because our tax money
Right.
supports FAA. supports
Exactly
the
right.
airports,
Exactly right.
supports the politicians
That's
that
right.
are in there,
Right.
and they are ignoring it.
Right.
Speaking of Mr. Seth Moulton,
Right.
who's up for re-election
Well,
this
excuse me,
year.
but he also voted to reauthorize
Yes.
the FAA's ability to, be the big say when it comes to anything around the airport, the people that live around there. And he took no exception. He didn't say like, well, I'm going to vote to reauthorize the airport, but I don't want them using leaded fuel anymore because of how horrible it is and it's killing people and destroying the potential of these little kids to have, the ability to learn and to do well in life.
Joe,
Go.
the reason I have attempted to reach out
Right.
to Seth Moulton,
Right.
he's sent his henchman, Mr. Abbott, and now Liam
Moorhead or something?
Moorhead.
Yes.
And I have been pleading with Liam to have a face-to-face with Seth Moulton because he is our representative.
And what did he respond? He said,
I'm too busy.
Right, he doesn't
Yeah.
have the time.
That's
Then what's your role? You're the
He-
representative of us. You should
He's
make the time.
unavailable. He's unavailable.
He's on
So,
vacation.
But what I want to do is I
Sure.
want to continue
Sure.
because this
Go ahead.
whole thing revolves around the environmental issues.
Exactly.
Environmental issues include noise, air,
Exactly.
water, images of buildings being too high in the residential area.
Right.
Now, that hangar that they're talking about, that we're asking them to reverse the lease agreement,
Right.
put it on the other side of the main runway.
Exactly.
Put it in Beverly.
Exactly.
But they won't want to do that.
Since aren't they benefiting more than us tax-wise? They
Who
get.
knows where the tax money goes?
Well, you have to pay taxes on gas, and I'm sure in the land that they're on, doesn't Beverly receive that?
We don't get
a penny,
out
right?
of it. Right.
Right?
So, what I want to do is I
sure.
want to continue
Sure.
with the other
Sure.
issues that have been brought up to the airport commissioners. And the second issue, after the main motion, a motion is hereby made to incorporate in the current and future leases a stipulation for environmental and health impacts affecting the surrounding communities.
Right.
Renewal of leases shall include environmental, intensity, and operations clauses. The environmental impact on our communities must be a central consideration. Now, we just went through the last meeting. They renewed several leases. And the only person that had any effect from my comments was Miss Gillette. And she's a Beverly commissioner. And she raised the issue, and they shut her right down because that wasn't their tactic for this particular issue.
And you know what's so concerning too, Mark, is that, and I understand it. I'm an environmentalist. I want to protect, the bird fowl in the air, especially in that area there. I'm sure there's a lot of, exotic birds, raptors, and here and there and whatever. And that's really great. We should protect them. But in the meantime, what about us? Aren't we something worth protecting? What about our health? What about, how the noise really, and it's been proven, affects your actual health? I have a friend who has high blood pressure, and he swears, and I believe him, that when the planes keep coming over, especially when he's trying to have a peaceful supper, right, that hurts his health. It's not just the toxins that are falling on him that's hurting his health. The noise can be a real health factor.
It creates tensions.
Exactly. Anxiety.
That's right.
In fact, I won't mention his name, he'll kill me, but he's looking to move. He can't handle it anymore.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, I have been involved with this mess for about 5 years now.
I know.
However, very often I hear that I'm ready to move. I'm ready
Right.
to sell.
That's right.
I'm out of this town
That's
because nobody gives a damn.
Right, right.
So this is what our Board of Selectmen needs to hear.
Exactly.
And hopefully, one of these days, maybe we'll get an appearance in front of them because they're so mighty. So, now, this third issue that I brought up, and it's all environmental.
Sure.
The motion is hereby made to reevaluate the master plan for the environmental impacts. Environmental impacts proposed in the master plan are a direct attack on quality of life on our children and our children's lives.
Exactly.
The planned and now proposed facilities, taxiways, and specifically hangars and runways are only planned to current and future jet traffic. And jetport traffic expansion. Facilities expansion and intensity of use leads to larger, heavier, and noisier flights. And that's what we're experiencing right now. And the thing that I made a concerted effort 1 month that I would send an email to the airport manager that there was a flight that was noisy and it was driving me crazy because I sit in my dining room
Sure.
and I operate the computer and I do my homework
Right.
and everything else.
Right.
I have a list for day by day, and I've sent some of it to the airport manager, but at the last meeting, we got chastised for sending emails to the manager that we pay every day and to operate the airport. The airport manager got offended that he was getting emails and he had to do some work. But what they want you to do is go onto their website and fill out the forms, and then maybe they'll look at it or not. And the numbers of complaints are going down because people are frustrated.
Yes, they're not going down because people
Right.
are satisfied that some action has been taken and they are listening, to our complaints. But, I just want to leave you with this, Mark, and that is that, all right, you want to fly over me. I'm at the latter stage of my life, I'm an elderly person. But I'm concerned about my grandchildren. I have grandchildren in Beverly, and I'm sure you have grandchildren in the same...
In Beverly as
right,
well.
in the area. These planes fly all over the place, dropping their leaded pollution on them, and no one really knows, what the long-term effect is going to be. But where it had been definitely looked at and proven back in a few years ago at Reedville Airport in California, it showed that the lead poisoning that was happening among the kids, they were trying to say, it came from the building pipes and whatever else. They've proven that it came from the aviation, and the cause of these health concerns it showed itself in terms of brain damage, learning disabilities, reduced fertility, nerve damage, and death. Despite the dangers associated with, many airplanes continue to utilize leaded fuel, putting the health and safety of Americans, especially children, at risk. Some of their lead levels were higher than Flint, Michigan. Remember that issue
Yep.
where they changed the water, source?
The pipes.
Right.
Yep.
And that's how bad it was. And, you just don't, it just doesn't go away.
See, the thing is that it's hard to understand
Right.
the position of the, I don't know if FAA has anything to do with it.
They're aware of it. So is the EPA.
The EPA is
Yeah.
the problem.
Right.
And the EPA has instituted this lead paint removal programs for every city and town in our country, but they are resistant in getting this leaded fuel out of the system.
Well, the FAA and the EPA have targeted as 2030 as the year that most of this will change and everything will go into unleaded and whatever else. But in the meantime, we got to breathe, and our children have to breathe in this poisonous pollution. How does that make any sense?
Joe-
the
Joe,
house is burning down. You don't wait. You put the fire out, but they don't care.
Joe, they're waiting us out. They
that's
expect us not to be around in 2030.
Well, we won't be, but our kids will be,
Yeah,
and they'll
I
have
know.
to suffer the effects
Well,
of this
let's
pollution.
continue
Sure.
because
Sure, I know
we're
you're
running
good.
out of time
I
again.
know. Well, time flies when you're having fun.
The last
Not really
item
fun,
I'm
but,
talking about that I
interesting.
was telling them about was Danvers town meeting. As a result of my citizens petitions, I have been putting petitions in regards to Beverly Airport for years, and even the town meeting, voted to have BVY, Beverly Airport, to embark onto an environmental protection plan report. The motion hereby is to expedite and address this process before any planned modifications are made at Beverly Airport. EPA investigations must be prepared to assess the current and future environmental impacts on any expansion at Beverly Airport. And I have today got a copy of the letter that, I don't have it right in my hand, but that the town manager, as a result of the town meeting, sent a very creepy letter to the airport manager requesting that this happen. And what I understand is the airport commission said, okay, goodbye, back in the basket, into the wastebasket.
Round basket.
So that is the bulk of the motions. There were 5 at that time. And these actions are not last month. The proposed actions made during Senator Lovely's attendance at the January 2024 airport meeting, no action to date. The same environmental assessment requests have been initiated by our legislators in support of constituents in Beverly, Danvers, and Wenham. The motion hereby is to expedite the environmental report requested and to prevent any additional harm to our environment, our education facilities, our residential health,
Right.
and child development. January 8th, 2024 meeting with the airport manager. I made the comments, and I have suggested to them that they should really do a airport environmental impact study, not the studies that they pay dearly for when they move a runway, when they put a hangar in. They say that they do the environmental impacts. No, they don't.
Right.
They do a superficial thing that's costing, in this case, the runway that was discussed in the last meeting was $300-some thousand. And that's by FAA again. So Seth Moulton has to come aboard and try to resolve this thing. He has not. Sally has tried to develop and present legislation to the state because the state funds 5% of the
Exactly. That's why I always say that when they say that, well, we have no control, it's federal, it's
baloney.
FAA. The state has a lot to say because they do a lot of matching funds and whatever. They could put a monkey wrench in this if Sally and Joan got together and said, hey, wait a minute, we're not being treated fairly here in Danvers. Why should we be so quick to match these fundings from the federal government? And why shouldn't Seth Moulton get off his high horse and come down and speak with you, because that's what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to represent the people. We are the people. We shouldn't have to just meet in a big auditorium where he can pick and choose who he wants to have a question asked of him. He should be able to meet with people personally and stop using the excuse that he's on vacation or the Congress is shut down for a number of weeks.
Well,
I mean,
because they're always on vacation. As long as they're not busy at the legislature, then we're saving money.
you know what it is, Mark? He doesn't want to deal with it because he knows it's a sore subject amongst many of us in Danvers, and it's better for him to just pretend it doesn't exist and go after stationary, pollution, projects, and not worry about what's flying over us and the poison that they're dropping on us.
Let me wrap up
Sure.
this thing because we're running out of time.
Right.
The two line items that I want to just quickly go through is environmental issues are not limited to leaded fuel.
Right.
Leaded
Right.
fuel has consistently been used at Beverly Airport.
Right.
Leaded fuel causes disease and cancer to the most vulnerable of our communities.
Our children and our elderly.
No imminent solution proposed by FAA or BVY. Various communities have initiated legal action against airports. Why not Danvers, Wenham, or Beverly?
Exactly.
Environmental impact study and report. We need it now, not in the future or not piecemeal,
Right.
by Beverly Airport and the FAA. Must immediately conduct a total environmental impact study for the entire airport. Leaded fuel, harbingers of human suffering. Expansion of runways, increase in noise and increased pollution. Other contaminants, PFAS, and jet exhaust fumes are cumulative.
Exactly.
Quality of life and longevity are impacted by the noise and contamination. Safety of our schools and homes is at stake. The flights that are taking off runway, is it 27?
Mm-hmm.
Is right over the high school.
And they often do it in the worst times when you're trying to have a little camaraderie with maybe your family on a Sunday afternoon, and you can't hear yourself speak to your relative or to your neighbor, or you can't enjoy your supper because of these planes continually going over like they were bombing Pearl Harbor. And I would just like to leave you with this, Mark, and that is, when you look at life and whatever, they have the power right now, the FAA and all the federal agencies, and they get well taken care of by our politicians, whatever. But just because you have the right to do something doesn't make it right.
Right. Okay, thank you, Joe. Now, these comments are from January of 2024 and prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And Joan Lovely participated at several meetings to protect our residents due to major environmental issues. The one thing that I have a question for both Sally and Joan Lovely and Paraso, the representative from Beverly, what have you done for us lately?
Right.
Nothing. So, Greg, if you can put up my last clip, and what is going on in Beverly Airport? Coming soon, Beverly to Nantucket. That was an advertising that was placed on the website for the Beverly Airport in 2020. So the thing is, they are lying to us, saying that these are not scheduled flights. These are they are commercial,
Right.
but they're business flights. Baloney. These are scheduled flights, and they better fess up to
And
it.
they're not benefiting the residents of
No.
our area. They're benefiting Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard or wherever they go.
Now, you notice that I have my turkey in front of
I do.
us. And
I
my
do.
turkeys represent certain things. And in this case, my turkey here represents every single one of those airport commissioners, the flight level aviation director, and the Moulton staff that have resisted in meeting with us.
Right.
Joan and Sally have come forward, but Moulton has resisted, and he has no courage. So we go back to my original statements in regards to courage.
Right.
Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. What we're asking for is our residents need to get mobilized into a action committee, and we need to start addressing this from Mayor Cahill, airport commissioners, Sally Kearns, Joan Lovely, and Seth Moulton. And if we have to, let's go to the president.
Right.
I mean, he's all green.
That's right.
He wants to be green.
Right. And you know
Dan
what?
Bennett is another one that is a green supporter. And
Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't be a green supporter and then allow, leaded pollution to fall on your residents. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Joe, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate you coming on
Thank you.
as a surprise. And we'll see you maybe
Right.
next time.
Politicians listen to numbers.
Right.
We have to get more people who believe like we do so that we can have a better future for all of us.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
Danvers.
Thank you, Mark.
Sit.